Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream Sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Monday as we kick off another week. Over the weekend, Russia launched its biggest air assault yet on Ukraine since the war began. Over 800 drones and decoys, missiles flying into Kyiv, and President Trump is not a happy camper. We have the latest on what appears to be an escalation in the Ukraine-Russia war. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett defended the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization decision that overturned Roe v. Wade during an interview with CBS's Norah O'Donnell last night. We have the highlights for you in today's show. We got two brand new instant multimillionaires in America. The second largest Powerball jackpot in U.S. history, a staggering $1.787 billion, was won on Saturday night's drawing. President Trump's U.S. Open visit created chaos for celebrities and VIPs at Flushing Meadows, New York, according to a report by the New York Post yesterday. That's awful that celebrities like Michael Douglas had to wait in line. We have those details for you as well. And does South Carolina have more roads than it can keep up? It seems to be a never-ending battle, and state leaders are trying to come up with the magic bullet.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
All right, folks, here we go again. Russia just launched its biggest air assault yet on Ukraine since this war began. Reports are that over 800 drones and decoys, missiles flying into Kyiv, and this time they hit the government building itself. At least 4 people killed, dozens more injured, and now President Trump says he's ready to move to stage 2 sanctions against Russia. Now, he didn't really say exactly what that second stage looks like. No details yet. But if you've been following the Trump playbook, there's a good chance it means targeting Russia's oil exports. That's the lifeline that is keeping Putin's war machine running. And Trump has been teasing tariffs and secondary sanctions that would hit any country buying Russian oil. So he's basically saying, if you do business with Russia, you're going to have to feel the pain too. That's how you bring pressure, folks. You don't write angry letters. You squeeze the money flow. You stop the financial revenue, the input that is funding the war to begin with. Ukrainian Prime Minister is already backing Trump's next move. She told the New York Post, quote, "We appreciate President Trump's prompt reaction and a strong signal of readiness to impose secondary sanctions on Russia." That's a pretty big endorsement from a wartime ally because, let's be honest, words aren't stopping Putin. Sanctions might. But here's the kicker. This all comes just weeks after President Trump's big summit with Putin in Alaska. Remember? I mean, it was just a few weeks ago. The president was there just around the same time that Mike Gallagher and Larry Elder and I were kicking off our Patriots Alaska cruise. The media was in a frenzy over it, wondering if Trump would go soft, if he'd bend a knee to Moscow. But no, here we are. Trump's ready to slap Putin with round 2, I believe.
I believe Putin has underestimated what President Trump is willing to do. And you got to ask yourself, well, what changed? Well, for one, Russia just crossed a major red line by bombing Ukraine's central government headquarters. And two, Trump made it clear in Alaska, if Putin keeps pushing, there'll be very severe consequences. Looks like he meant it. Meanwhile, Zelensky, Ukraine's president, says he's had enough. He's done waiting. He's even thrown out an invitation. Putin can come to Kyiv if he wants peace talks, he said. So now we're staring down a crossroads. Either this latest Russian aggression forces the West to step up, or we keep watching Ukraine burn while the world dithers. I don't know. But there's got to be a solution here if we're going to continue to support Ukraine. And say what you will about President Trump, he's not the dithering type. he wants to get action, something done. He wants to take action. So we'll be keeping an eye on this, quote, stage 2 sanctions. Actually, again, it looks like, folks, it's clear. Putin's running out of room to maneuver. Will Europe follow Trump's lead? Or will they keep buying Putin's oil while Ukraine takes the hit? We'll see. We'll see. There's going to have to be some tough decisions made pretty quickly. President Trump's appearance at the men's singles final of the U.S. Open yesterday afternoon caused havoc for tennis fans, including a slew of celebrity attendees, according to the New York Post. One source told Page Six, it's an absolute S show. Cars can't get into parking lots. People are walking miles. Even celebrities are having to wait like the normal people. Well, I hate it for them, don't you? The source added that security has stopped entry in so many different ways. Catherine Zeta-Jones, Michael Douglas, Ben Stiller were spotted waiting in line like everyone else, while Deborah Messing sat in a car for an hour and they wouldn't let her out. Again, I hate it for him. Lindsay Lohan was also spotted traipsing in parking lots. Evidently, Stiller eventually got to a seat along with the other celebrities, including Bruce Springsteen. Don't you know that just really tore Bruce Springsteen up? Because he doesn't like Trump at all. B.J. Novak and Sting, they all finally got there to watch the final between Mr. Center and Mr. Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz eventually won. Earlier this week, New York Post exclusively reported that the president would be attending the tennis final for the first time since the Queens-born president was booed at Arthur Ashe Stadium back in 2015. You may remember this. This is when he was presidential candidate Donald Trump. At the time, he attended the U.S. Open with his wife, soon-to-be First Lady Melania Trump. They watched Serena Williams play her older sister, Venus Williams, and according to the reports, and I remember it, he was booed by the fans as he entered. This time, the president was joined by several members of his administration, like U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and granddaughter Arabella were also present, according to the reports. Before his appearance, now, and by the way, now, they're making a big deal out of the fact that he was booed in 2015. There was some booing this year, but overall, if you watch some of the video, he got an enthusiastic welcome. People were standing, they were clapping, they were cheering the president. The media wants you to think that it was all boos, and there were some boos. But overall, you could tell that the people were happy to see their president at the U.S. Open. So back to the New York Post story. They're saying that before his appearance this year, that the United States Tennis Association had advised broadcasters not to televise any negative reaction that he might receive from the crowd. Here's the quote, supposedly, from the U.S. Tennis Association. We ask all broadcasters to refrain from showcasing any disruptions or reactions in response to the president's attendance in any capacity, including electronic news gathering coverage. I'm not sure very many of them adhered to that because there's all kinds of coverage. There was lots of video that was being reported and posted on social media of his grand entrance, and again, of the people who seemed to be happy he was there, seemed to be encouraged that their president came to things like the U.S. Open tennis. Social media posts were just going nuts. So, Donald Trump knows how to make an entrance. You have to give that to him, right? More so than any president I have ever witnessed in my years on this earth. Donald Trump is a showman. People should just accept that and understand that when he shows up, there's going to be a show. The president loves the applause. The president loves the acceptance. And look, like him or not, most people love it when the president is in the house. America is in a health crisis, and by America, not just strangers across the country. It's personal. Me, you, friends, and family. And a major cause? Excess weight. Joey Hudson here. The solution isn't expensive shots like Ozempic. It's learning how to eat and think about food differently, and that's what PhD Weight Loss does. Their clients lose up to a third of their body weight. No drugs, just real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. Sure, you could spend up to $20,000 a year on injections that burn muscle, not fat, and come with risks like pancreatitis or bowel blockages, only to gain it all back. PhD helps your body naturally produce weight loss hormones like GLP-1s. No shortcuts, just results that last. Already on Ozempic? Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team will help you safely transition off and keep losing weight. Let's make America healthy again. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. So did you pick up a lottery ticket over the weekend? Many of you commented. I posted a little short video Saturday. I couldn't resist. I mean, it was almost $1.8 billion. Actually, $1.787 billion exactly. I thought, and I typically do not purchase lottery tickets. I do when it gets up to something like this. I thought, I'm going to at least try it. Because you're not going to win if you don't buy a ticket, right? So I posted a little video showing my tickets Saturday. Many of you commented and sent me notes on it. Did you buy one, though? Love to get your comments. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Leave me a voice message because I'd love to hear your take on this. Again, $1.7 billion. The two winning tickets were sold in Texas and in Missouri. So I didn't win, by the way. Nor did you. Well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we have one of the winners listening to us. Who knows? Each winner is set to walk away with a lump sum of about $410 million before taxes. Sounds like you hit the life jackpot, right? Well, not so fast because Uncle Sam wants his cut. Big time. And he's going to get it too. So think about this for a minute. Let's break this down. Out of that $410 million, the IRS immediately grabs 24%. But because that kind of money rockets you straight into the top tax bracket, the full 37% federal tax rate applies. So after all said and done, each winner will clear about $258.5 million estimated net after taxes. So you go from $1.8 billion. Now, granted, you're not going to get that much because, first off, if you take the cash option, that $1.8 billion is only if you receive a lifetime annuity. Most people take the cash. Get as much as you can, as quickly as you can, is the rule of thumb that most financial advisors are going to suggest. So that's why you're going to get the cash value of $410 million because, again, there are two winners. So think about that. The two winners combined will get $820 million out of $1.8 billion. Then after taxes, cut that in half again. Now, Texas doesn't have a state income tax. So that winner, they're going to be able to keep their full $258.5 million after their federal taxes. But over in Missouri, the state law grabs another 4%, slicing off another $16.4 million from the prize. So that leaves the Missouri winner with around $242 million. Now, I could still live on $240 million, could you? Now, again, granted, it would be rough having to pay that much tax, but still, that's a private island you could purchase. That's a lot of homes, a lot of cars. Now, there's another kicker here. Most of these big winners choose to remain anonymous, and for good reason, because history shows that nearly 1 in 3 lottery winners ends up broke or in serious financial trouble just a few years later. Would you be able to handle this? What would be your first thing? Who would be your first call? Your financial advisor, maybe? Your tax attorney? Your CPA? The problem is, so many of these winners, they have their family and friends lined up waiting for them to pay off their mortgages, to buy them a new car, and the list goes on and on. Invest in a new business. A lot of these not only get into serious trouble, they file bankruptcy. Despite having more money than most of us will ever have in our lifetime, they end up broke again, filing bankruptcy. Again, bad investments, scammers, freeloading friends and family. And they just overspend. So some of the people, they've never had money before in their life, so they don't know how to manage it, and they don't have enough common sense to find someone who can help them manage it. I mean, you win hundreds of millions of dollars, suddenly everybody's your best friend and your worst financial advisor. So for these 2 lucky winners, the real question isn't how much they won, it's how much they'll still have 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Will it really change their life in the good? Will this improve their life, their family's life? In most cases, history shows us, no, it doesn't. But I get back to my original question. What would you do if you were the winner of $410 million? Again, you're going to cut that in half, about $250 or so after taxes. But what would you do with that? Would you give some to your family? Would you pay off mortgages? Would you buy new vehicles? How much of it would you give to your church? Because we've talked about the taxes here. We've talked about the federal government getting its share. And if you're in a state like South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, all have income tax, you're going to have to pay your income tax. But what about your tithe? What about the portion that you should give back to God? Bible says 10%. Are you going to give 10% before taxes or after taxes? And you are going to give 10%, right? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. What are you going to do if you, what would you do if you were one of these winners and you had just pocketed after taxes about $250 million? Love to hear from you. It's been a few years now since the U.S. Supreme Court handed down their Dobbs decision, but it's back front and center in America's cultural and political debate. Last night, Justice Amy Coney Barrett sat down with CBS's Norah O'Donnell, and in rare fashion for a sitting justice, you don't see these types of interviews that often, she didn't just give bland answers. She was very clear and concise. She defended Dobbs with clarity, and she dismantled a lot of the scare tactics that we've seen or been hearing from the left for the past 3 years. Here's Justice Barrett's key point, and it's one a lot of people conveniently ignore. Dobbs did not make abortion illegal. Let me repeat that. Dobbs did not make abortion illegal, period. What the court said was very simple. The Constitution does not guarantee a right to abortion. That's not in the text. It's not in the history. It's not in the structure of the document. Roe v. Wade invented that right out of thin air back in 1973. And for 50 years, we've had unelected judges drawing arbitrary lines about when and how abortion could take place. Dobbs simply corrected that. It puts the issue back where it belongs, in the hands of the people and their elected representatives. And Justice Barrett said that. She said those calls are properly left to the Democrat process, and the states have been working those out. That's exactly what we've seen. Some states have passed strong pro-life protections, just like the heartbeat bill here in the Palmetto State. Others have gone in the opposite direction, legalizing abortion right up until birth. That's federalism. That's democracy. That's the system our founders gave us. Now, of course, the dissenting justices in Dobbs, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Breyer, painted a doomsday picture. They claimed that Dobbs would unleash chaos in the courts and put things like birth control, IUDs, even IVF at risk. Justice Barrett pushed back. She said those are medical questions, not constitutional questions. Dobbs didn't touch them, period, she said. Here's her response to Norah O'Donnell.
Do you see those as issues that are coming about now as a result of Dobbs?
Let's see. Those are issues inherent in medical practice, and sure, they surround pregnancy care and the care of women. And those are issues that are left now to the democratic process, and the states are working those out. We have not had those cases on our docket. But, the central message of Dobbs did not render abortion illegal. Dobbs did not say anything about whether abortion is immoral. Dobbs said that these are questions that are left to the states. All of these kinds of questions, decisions that you mentioned that require medical judgments, are not ones that the Constitution commits to the court, to decide how far into pregnancy the right of abortion might extend. The court was in the business of drawing a lot of those lines before. And what Dobbs says is that those calls are properly left to the democratic process. And the states have been working those out. There's been a lot of legislative activity and a lot of state constitutional activity since the decision in Dobbs was rendered.
But here's the thing. The left doesn't care what Dobbs actually said. They care about how they can weaponize it politically. That's why you hear Hillary Clinton and others predicting that gay marriage is next. That's why you hear talking points about a Handmaid's Tale dystopia. It's scare politics, pure and simple. And that's what they do best. Justice Barrett's response was refreshing. Just tune it out. Ignore it. The court's job isn't to chase cable news headlines. Their job is to interpret the law as written, not as imagined by the left. And let's not forget, Justice Barrett was vilified during her confirmation. Remember the headlines? She's too Catholic. She'll overturn every precedent. She'll be a theocrat in robes. And what has she done? Exactly what she promised in those hearings. Separate her personal beliefs from her constitutional duty. And that's exactly what she's doing. She's even written a book now, Listening to the Law, where she talks about that struggle. She admitted that it's not easy to balance her faith, her values, and her judicial responsibilities, but that's what integrity looks like. Contrast that with justices on the left who openly legislate from the bench, who cite foreign law and public opinion polls instead of the Constitution. Justice Barrett may not be perfect, but she's exactly what President Trump promised, a justice who will call balls and strikes according to the text of the Constitution. Now, let's zoom out for a moment here. Dobbs was historic not just because it overturned Roe, but because it reminded the American people of something that we'd kind of forgotten. Not every political issue is a constitutional issue. And we lose sight of that sometimes. The left wants us to lose sight of that. We have to, and this is what I love about Justice Barrett, is everything our government does, every decision those justices make should go back very simply to the Constitution. What does the Constitution, what did our founding fathers, what was their intention? Try to interpret what the Constitution's intention was. For decades, we have lived under this illusion that 9 justices in black robes should settle every moral question for 330 million people. Dobbs shattered that illusion. It said, no, the people decide. The states decide. Legislatures decide. You have a say in that. If you can elect a majority of conservatives, of pro-life representatives to send to the state house, to send to the state senate. That's healthy for our democracy. It's messy? Yes. It means fights in state houses and ballot initiatives, but that's what self-government looks like. And frankly, it's what the founders intended, right? Here's the truth. Democrats don't trust people. Democrats don't trust you and I know what's best for us. They want 5 justices on the Supreme Court to impose their agenda nationwide. That's why they call Dobbs radical, even though all it did was return the issue to the voters. And that's why Donald Trump will be remembered as one of the most successful conservative presidents in recent history because of his appointment of people like Justice Barrett, conservative judges who got us to the point that Roe v. Wade was no more, that this issue of abortion was returned to the states. Now, they're furious. The left's furious because they lost their shortcut. For 50 years, they didn't have to persuade anyone. They could just say the court decided Roe, it's settled law, the conversation's over. Well, not anymore. Now they actually have to win arguments, win votes, and pass laws. And judging by the panic you see in blue state politicians and activists, they know that it's not easy. Norah O'Donnell pressed Justice Barrett on all of this. And you could tell what CBS wanted. They wanted a soundbite to confirm the liberal narrative, that the court is out of control, that Trump's justices are extremists, that more rights are about to fall like dominoes. Barrett didn't give it to them, though. Justice Barrett stayed calm, she stayed firm, and she reminded viewers that the Constitution hasn't changed. It's still just as it was written by our founding fathers. Only the court's willingness to finally admit what Roe got wrong has changed. And let me say this. That takes courage. That takes guts. Because Justice Barrett knows every time she speaks publicly, the knives come out. The media, the activist left, even some law professors, they're all waiting to pounce, and yet she stood her ground. And again, this was a rare interview. You don't see these types of interviews very often. So here's the bottom line. Justice Barrett defended Dobbs not as some ideological crusade, but as a return to constitutional order. Abortion isn't illegal. The court didn't ban it. What they did was give the issue back to the states, back to you and me, back to the people. And the people in those states can decide. Hey, and if you live in a state, that says yes, you should be allowed to have an abortion, move. Go to a state like South Carolina that protects life, that appreciates life, that defends life. Now, critics can scream. Hillary Clinton can predict the fall of civilization. The media can trot out every scare story in the book. But the truth is, America is better off when decisions this big are made by voters, not by unelected judges. You agree? Justice Barrett reminded us of that. And for once, in an interview with CBS, of all places, the American people actually got to hear the facts instead of the fear-mongering. That's progress, and it's another reminder of why 2016 mattered, why Trump's presidency mattered, and why appointments to the U.S. Supreme Court may be the single most consequential thing that any president does.
Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com.
I think it's time that we admit, and maybe this is something that the South Carolina state legislature needs to admit, and that is that we have more roads than we can manage. By land area, the state ranks 40th among all states, 23rd by population. But if you look at linear mileage of our roads, the state's highway system, that is the roads under the direct oversight of the South Carolina Department of Transportation, ranks 4th largest in the nation. Let that sink in for a minute. 4th largest. A massive infrastructure obligation that will cost the state roughly $2.76 billion to maintain this fiscal year. This according to a report published by the Post and Courier over the weekend. And even that may not be enough. I mean, how many times over the years have we had some entity, whether it's the state or a local government, county, city, asking us, oh, we just need another penny on the sales tax or gas tax, and we'll be able to fix all the roads. How many times have we heard that? Now, despite the growth of DOT's construction program, from the $4.8 billion in 2023 to a whopping $6.2 billion last year, numerous roads under state control continue to be neglected each year simply due to the lack of funding or manpower available to repair them. That's just a simple truth. According to Transportation Secretary Justin Powell, the agency will require at least $1 billion in extra funding annually just to implement a proposed 25-year infrastructure plan implemented back in May to improve congestion on interstate highways, fix some of the bridges, a lot of bridges actually, and improve safety on a lot of our roads. But even that proposal couldn't fix the problem overnight. Powell told the Post and Courier in an interview the industry couldn't handle it. You know, you're in the multiple billions number to get out of that maintenance backlog. Meanwhile, highway dollars aren't going as far as they used to. A contentious tax on gasoline passed by the legislature, you remember, back in 2017, has failed miserably to keep pace with inflation. While the advent of technologies like electric vehicles have left DOT in an increasingly difficult position to meet the challenges that are posed by our continued population boom, they're still struggling to keep up. And again, that 2017, that was when we were told, this is it. If we can get this, we'll be able to take care of all our problems. State lawmakers have taken notice. In August, the South Carolina House of Representatives saw its first ever meeting of an ad hoc committee to modernize the DOT. They're contemplating a number of reforms to help fix more potholes and widen more miles of highway. The idea of getting the most momentum is one of the simplest, turning hundreds of miles of smaller DOT-managed routes and highways over to local governments. It makes sense. Now, I'm not sure how local governments are going to feel about it and how that's going to equate to those footing the bill for the local governments. Does that mean that our county taxes are going to go up if our counties are handed over that responsibility to maintain more roads? Now, it's not a new idea. The Department of Transportation launched a pilot program about a decade ago to allow local governments to voluntarily take control of highways within their jurisdiction. But actually accomplishing this type of goal, some advocates admit, has a lot of complications. Some counties are more easily able to take on road projects than others. The Post and Courier pointed out that existing entities like county transportation councils that have already administered some local projects operate under old rules, archaic rules, and they could be subject to political pressure. And a lack of centralized highway planning, not to mention the already pre-existing shortage of human beings actually able to fix the roads, the workers, could potentially mean less efficiency in executing road projects. The Joshua Rose, Deputy Executive Director of the South Carolina Association of Counties, told the Post and Courier, if the problem that we're fixing is just to make the state highway system smaller, I think that's a relatively easy problem to fix, and that is just to shift ownership of roads from the state to other entities. He went on, though, if the problem is fixing the roads, that's a more complex problem. Because, again, if you just shift ownership, you're still not going to get the road fixed. The counties then are going to have to figure out how to fix those roads. And I'm not sure that the counties are suited to do that. I don't know. I just know that for years now, actually ever since I've been driving, I've heard the state talk about, well, we're going to, give us another penny, we're going to fix it. And it just hasn't happened. Now, South Carolina can actually turn control of roads back to local governments because historically, local governments had never had roads to manage. If you do a little history here, and the Post and Courier did a great job of backing up some of this, of giving us the background. In 1920, when the General Assembly first directed the then South Carolina Highway Commission to develop a state system of public highways, the system was less than 1/10 its current size, consisting of only 26 paved miles and approximately 3,000 unpaved miles of highway statewide. The catch was that only state-owned roads were eligible for federal funding, and for decades, the system kept growing larger and larger to the point that where today's DOT is responsible for roads inside of privately developed subdivisions, cemetery driveways along a wide web of county roads, and interstate highways as well. But there's only a limited amount of money to take care of these needs. While the DOT addresses them through a grading system, only funding priority projects with high levels of traffic or in economically important areas are taking place. Now, the Post and Courier writes, is a prudent way to dispatch limited public resources, and it ensures an objective criteria for state transportation planners to methodically improve the state's road system, but to local governments, the system also lacks responsiveness, leaving county and municipal leaders frustrated in their inability to improve problematic but low-priority roads in their own jurisdictions. Maybe if you shift it back to the counties, maybe they would be able to better prioritize those that they need. Local governments have some flexibility. Millions of dollars in state money raised through fuel taxes and vehicle registration fees flow each year to county transportation councils, which some have suggested could play a larger role in administering the transfer of roads from the state. But state law requires 1/4 of those funds be used for state-owned projects. And so you get back to this funding dilemma. Those councils are overseen not by county governments, but by their respective local delegations in the legislature, which some observers say could unnecessarily inject politics in their decision-making in an effort to appease voters. In other words, you know a state legislator, you make a financial contribution to their campaign, maybe you influence them to get your road paved before someone else does. It's so complicated, it probably shouldn't be, but it is. County transportation councils also face the same fundamental problems, again, that state faces: limited buying power. The 2017 gas tax has capped It's a maximum at 28.75 cents per gallon, ranking it in the bottom half of all states according to the Tax Foundation. Other fees like South Carolina's vehicle registration fee, taxes, they've also not budged in years. So again, where does the money come from? It's going to take a lot more than we have right now, and that's the real dilemma. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.